Good evening from the UK, from southern England. I'm delighted, because I actually know her in person, that to have spent the next half an hour with crime writer, crime novelist Leigh Russell.
Thank you
Good
very much.
evening. Good.
Great
You're
to be here.
very welcome. So we'll start right at the beginning. I understand it's quite a journey you've taken from writing the beginning to where you are now. Obviously, you're very prolific. Can you remember when you started, and did you start writing as a child? Can you remember the first thing you wrote?
Yes, I can remember absolutely. I was actually working as a school teacher at the time, and I've always said that the only fiction I wrote before my debut novel was when I was writing school reports, because you can't always be too honest. I hope none of the parents are listening, but I mean that was a long time ago. I gave up teaching about 10 years ago because the books kind of took off and I had to give something up. So yes, I won't go into the details of it now, because it's quite a story in itself. I mean, everything is a story, isn't it? But I was in my 50s when I had my first idea, and it was literally just a kind of light bulb moment, sort of what if? And I went home and started writing the story, and I haven't looked back since. I wrote that first story, cut short, and was very fortunate to secure a 3-book deal with a really wonderful publisher. And I just sent off what I'd written to a couple of publishers I'd found in Writers and Artists Yearbook, because you could do that in those days. Publishers would take on authors without having to go through an agent back then. We're looking, about 15 years ago now, I guess. And so on the basis of my first manuscript, I was offered a 3-book deal, and I haven't looked back since, as I say, because the first book did really well, the second book did well. And so by the time I was writing the third one in my initial 3-book deal, my publisher had offered me another 3-book deal, and we've just gone on from there. And I'm currently, believe it or not, I'm currently writing the 23rd book in that series. And the challenge now for me, the challenges change as you go along. The challenge for me now is to find ways of making the novels different and fresh. And I was very pleased that the first couple of reviews that came in for my 22nd novel, which incidentally was published, I think yesterday on the 6th, no, on the 15th, and it was 2 days ago it was published. And the first reviews that came in, both independently, said that the story was really, they both used the word fresh.
Oh, nice.
Still keeps it fresh, because that is a bit of a challenge now. When I started writing, I was really writing just for myself. I was having fun, and every other page there was a murder or a drug heist or a kidnap. And I had to learn. I was very fortunate that I learned on the job. I've now had, I think, 40 novels published. So I've been through a rigorous professional editing process 40 times. So I've really learned on the job. And I've learned not only to write for readers, which as authors we have to do. It doesn't really work to write just for yourself. But I'm also now writing with my series for 2 readers, because I'm writing for fans of the series who know my detective, who've read all the 20-odd books so far. I'm also writing for new readers who haven't read any of my books and might pick up any one of my books in the series, anywhere in the series. And of course, they want to enjoy it just as much as my existing readers do. So I'm writing for my fans, my existing readers, but I'm also writing for new readers. So I'm now writing for myself and also for 2 readers. And it's a skill that you learn on the job, as it were. You learn through being edited. So I don't know if that answers your question, really. But
absolutely, thank you. And is that the Geraldine Steel?
That's the Geraldine Steel series. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm currently the 23rd in the series.
Because I think on Amazon it says book X out of 20. So you've obviously gone beyond what was planned.
Yes. I mean, well, originally I was only going to write, I say only, originally I was only going to write 1. originally I wanted to write 20. That was my kind of ambition, because I'm not quite sure why. I thought, well, there's 20 in the Cadfael series. I think I want to do that.
Okay.
But as I was getting towards book 20 in the series, my publisher said to me, don't kill off your detective. Don't kill Geraldine Steel. Whatever you do, don't kill her off. So I didn't. And I came to a point in the 20th novel where the series could have come to an end, but my publisher wanted more books. And so now I'm writing the 23rd. And I think as long as people keep wanting to read the books, my publisher will keep wanting to publish them, and I'll continue writing them. Because if you have a publisher asking you for books, I mean, you're not going to say no, are you?
Perfect. No, absolutely. And do you age her? Have you aged her from book 1 to...
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a slight problem. And one of the pieces of advice that I would give to writers who are starting a series is to bear in mind that the books might continue for quite a while. Had I known that there were going to be, I don't know how many books in this series, but at least 23 anyway, I would have started with my detective being a little bit younger than she is. She's in her late 30s, kind of getting towards 40 in the first book. So she's had to be a little bit like Poirot and not really age. So I sort of fudged that a little bit. Good question. Yeah, it's something I hadn't thought of when I started. I mean, I could write a book on what not to do when you're starting to write a series, and that is one of the things that I would put in.
Well, that could be your 24th or 57th. I think your Amazon page has 56 titles, because you have 3 series. You have a very short 3-4 book, Ian Peterson.
Ian Peterson, yes. Ian Peterson is Geraldine Steel Sergeant, and so Geraldine and Ian start off in York. No, I'm going backwards. They start off in Kent working together. And then in book 4 in the series, Deathbed, Geraldine Steel relocates to London, leaving Ian Peterson behind. But there were a lot of readers protested to me that they liked Ian Peterson. So I wrote a trilogy for him, which runs alongside Geraldine's London books. And that got quite complicated, because she would make a cameo appearance in each of his books, and he makes a cameo appearance in each of her books. They keep in touch. And then after 3 books, Geraldine has to leave London. She gets demoted, and I'm not going to tell you why, but she does something that is really morally justifiable, but she does, it is a misdemeanor, definitely, and she ends up getting arrested. I'll say no more. She has to then leave the Met. And in the meantime, Ian Peterson has had a promotion and moved from Kent to York, where he's now an inspector. So Geraldine joins him in York. So from, honestly can't remember which book it is, but it might be the 6th one, Stop Dead. But Geraldine and Ian are working together again. So that's rather nice.
Nice. And so, all your books?
There's the Ian Peterson trilogy. I've also written a trilogy for a sort of amateur sleuth, Lucy Hall, which is an international novels, and I've written a few other things. Yeah, I've written other stuff.
Your Poppy will come.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes,
and
the newer ones. There's I think the fourth one coming out next month.
Yes, I just got the box of them today. The author copies today. I could have shown you one, but I think they're all downstairs.
Okay, that's all right. Next time.
Yes.
Well, hopefully.
This came about because, this also, there's a story to this, and it really starts, nearly 70 years ago. When I was 2, an Alsatian jumped up at me in the park and snapped at me. And I have no recollection of that incident at all, but it must have had an impact on me, because I've always been scared of dogs, particularly Alsatians.
Understandable.
And I used to walk around the block rather than walk past a dog. I was very nervous of dogs. And then my daughter got this little rescue puppy. She said, "Mum, you're going to love her. Oh, I love this little dog so much." It's almost like a religious conversion. I can't walk past a small dog on the street now without saying, "Can I say hello?" And I'm still a bit nervous of big dogs. But I absolutely love this little dog so much. In fact, I love her so much that she inspired me to write the Poppy Mystery Tales. Yes.
Lovely.
And again, we started, I think we started with a 3-book deal. We might have started with just one. My publisher wanted to see how it would go. And yes, the 4th one is out. I've just written the 5th one. That's gone off for editing. Okay. So yeah, they're great fun. They're kind of cozy crime, really.
Yeah, no, I love the covers. We can see them in the background. I saw them on Amazon. With
yes, they have a little sketch of the actual dog on them, because my daughter's done a little sketch of the real Poppy. It goes on the front of the cover. And in fact, if you listen to the audiobooks at the beginning, you will hear a dog barking, and that is Poppy. So she's very much.
So she's famous. That's her 3 seconds of fame. The Geraldine books have 2-word titles. Was that your idea, publisher's idea?
Short titles, I think, work very well with crime because they're a bit kind of punchy. I mean, the Poppy titles are rather longer. The first one is called Barking Up the Right Tree. Yeah, Barking Up the Right Tree. We tried to make the titles for the Poppy Mystery Tales a little bit light-hearted because we wanted to make it clear that these are not gritty crime novels like the Geraldine Steel novels, whereas short, punchy titles, Cut Short, Road Closed, Dead End, they seem to suit the genre better. And when I started out, I really felt I'm a writer, I'm a wordsmith. I don't want to use a title that anyone else has used. Very, very difficult. Anyway, Cut Short for the first one. Well, now there's about 6 books called Cut Short, crime novels, but I was the first. But it's very difficult. I'm sure you know yourself. You think of a brilliant title, look on Amazon, and there's already a dozen books with them. So,
which is it's fine if say someone like Richard Osman has written a book by that title, because in theory, if someone's looking for the title, you'll appear fairly close to it. But
if they're looking for Richard Osman, they're going to buy Richard Osman. I think that.
Yeah. So do you work on more than one book at a time? Do you get to the point perhaps with the Geraldine book where you're not quite sure what happens next, so you go on to switch to another book, or are you quite linear? Do you work on one book and then switch to a different series once you finish that one?
It depends on my deadlines, really. Depends what I need to deliver. I quite like to mix things up a bit. In my own reading, if I'm reading something fairly dark and serious, like, I don't know, Margaret Atwood's quite challenging to read, then I might read a Dick Francis, because that's just a good story. Or if I've read something like The End of the Affair or Graham Greene, perhaps, having read something like Brighton Rock, I would probably then read a P.G. Wodehouse or an Alexander McCall Smith. I like to mix things up a bit. So it's quite fun to be writing a Geraldine Steel and then switch to Poppy, which has a rather different feel to it. They're a bit more light-hearted. They're easier to write. They're written in first person. Geraldine Steel books are written from multiple points of view, mainly from my detective's point of view, but there are also chapters from the killer's point of view, from witnesses' point of view, maybe from a victim's point of view. And that makes things a little bit more complicated because I have to make sure the right things happen on the right day. So I tend to start at the beginning and work through, otherwise I get in a terrible muddle and end up with things like Geraldine discussing a witness statement before they've even questioned the witness. So whereas the Poppy Mystery Tales, like a lot of my other books, I've written some psychological thrillers, I've written one historical novel, I've written a dystopian novel, written in the first person, and there, as a writer, you just follow that character's story. You can leave out whatever you like because, the character didn't know that. So they're simpler to write. Geraldine Steel are a bit more, I need to focus a little bit more and try and remember what's going on.
Do you form an outline before? Are you a plotter? Does it vary depending on what you're writing, or do you get an idea and run with it?
I get an idea and I run with it. Basically, I would love to be. I mean, Jeffrey Deaver, and he plans his books out in detail before he writes them. He will write. He says he spends about 6 weeks writing a synopsis of each chapter, so that when he comes to write the book, all he has to do is write it. And his book, I mean, he's fiendishly clever. I think, you know, he couldn't really wing it. It has to all be worked out. Whereas Lee Child, who no longer writes, but he used to literally sit down without an idea in his head and start writing. And I would love to be like Jeffrey Deaver, but I'm afraid I'm a bit more like Lee Child. I sit down and I think, I have to deliver a manuscript in 6 months. I have not got a clue what it's going to be about. I'll think of a sentence and then off I go. But all my books, all my Geraldine Steel books, certainly, and Ian Peterson, are driven by the motivation of the killer. What's the killer doing? Why are they going around killing people? And that's what drives the narrative. So once I've got the killer in my mind, off I go. And of course, I know Geraldine, and I know her team around her. I know Ian Peterson. I know her Sergeant Ariadne. So I don't need to create my investigating team anew each time. There might be new characters joining the team, but Geraldine remains the same. And she develops as a character, and the reader might see different aspects of her character with each book, just changing little things, adding things to her character. But she is there, and it's the killer who is a different character each time, and the killer's motivation will be different each time, because there are any number of reasons why someone might become a killer. And that's really what I'm exploring in the novels. Why would anybody do that? So yeah, if I didn't have a publisher's deadline, I would probably not write anything.
They do help, don't they? I find that.
Yeah.
Having worked for the publisher for so long, and presumably you've had 1 or 2 or 3 editors for No Exit Press during that time, have you found the editing process has changed, or the writing process even has changed the way you read? Are you more critical of what you read?
I've had the same editor right from the start for Geraldine Steel, and she is absolutely wonderful, really worth her weight in gold. She knows the characters inside out. She knows them much better than I do. She remembers everything, and I tend to forget everything. So she's absolutely wonderful. In terms of the writing process, no, I just have an idea and off I go. And has it changed? I mean, I think it's probably changed in that I feel I know a little bit what I'm doing now. But of course, the pressures are different, because when I started writing, I was completely free. Now, there is the knowledge that there are people waiting for the next book, and there are readers who want to read what I'm going to write. And there's always that feeling in the back of your mind that at some point are people going to start saying she's lost her touch, she's written herself out, which is why I'm so pleased when I read reviews saying that the stories are still fresh. And in fact, in one of my novels, I'm not going to tell you which one it is, in one of them, I thought I've got to do something different. And I came up with an idea that I thought was actually really was bizarre, really. I thought, my publisher's never going to buy this one. But anyway, I delivered the manuscript and they were fine with it. And I had reviews, readers were saying things like, whoa, you know, how did she come up with such an amazing idea? This is so original. I thought, okay, so, you know, somehow it worked. But I did think it was going to be a bit too far-fetched. But anyway, there we go. So yes, I try different things. I try and kind of have fun with it, really. But I do need to deliver a story that is coherent, that is going to excite readers and keep them on the edge of their seats and satisfy them. So it's a challenge. I mean, all I can say really is so far so good. It seems to have worked. And if one day it stops working, I'll stop writing, I suppose.
And you clearly enjoy it. You clearly love what you do.
I love it. I love it. I mean, honestly, Morgan, why would anybody write if they didn't absolutely love it? Because it does take over your life. It's so time consuming. And yeah, you have to have a passion for it, don't you? Otherwise, don't do it. And if I ever lose that passion, then I will stop writing and I'll go back to reading all the time. Because one of the things that I don't have enough time to do now really is read, because I'm writing so much of the time.
You're so busy within the industry. I mean, I see you at a lot of literary festivals, but you're involved with the CWA as well. and you're a consultant royal, get this right, literary fellow, and you're. I say I live and breathe writing, and that I'd go to the opening of an envelope if it has writing on it. But you are very, very prolific. You see posts on Facebook, and so that must take quite a chunk of time.
Yeah, I mean,
being involved with other things.
Yeah, I'm not doing so many literary festivals anymore, just because it takes up time, as you say, and it's tiring. And I spend some of my time now supporting other writers, which I find enormously satisfying. I do some editing just on a freelance basis, and I was very excited recently because one of the writers whose work I edited, who I worked with this year, she's found an agent, been taken on by an agent, and has signed a contract with a major publishing house for a 2-book deal. Brilliant. And 3 others that I edited recently have now got literary agents. And I find that very exciting. I get very excited when their work gets recognised by other people. I'm a little bit choosy about who I will edit because, as you know, I'm sure editing is very time consuming. And again, I want to enjoy what I'm reading.
Yes.
And I like to think that the books that I edit are at least in with a shout of doing really, really well.
Sure, absolutely, yes. And did you have, for your covers, I've noticed they've changed over the years. Do you have you found, because I'm guessing that because you've published so many with them, as time has gone on, have you found you have more and more input towards the finished result?
I tend to leave the covers very much to the publisher because the cover of a book is a sales issue, really, isn't it? It's trying to sell the book, and I'm not a sales expert. I don't know what's going to sell. There are trends in publishing. I mean, the cover of my early books, we're on to about the 6th or 7th cover now. I don't know. They keep changing them, but I think there are, as I say, there are fashions there. So I'm consulted. They will normally send me half a dozen different options, and then we discuss, which one do we want, which do we like the best. But it's not ultimately my decision, because at the end of the day, the publisher is paying for the design. I'm not paying for it, so I can say what I think, but I don't really know about covers. I tend to leave it up.
You have to hope that they know what they're doing.
I mean, everybody is just doing their best and hoping for the best, but nobody really knows, do they? I mean, I was very pleased with them. There was a second Ian Peterson novel, and we had big discussions about whether to call it Race for Death or Race to Death. It was set at York Races. And a publisher and the publicist and the designer and myself and the editor were all chipping in what we thought: Race to Death, Race for Death. And in the end, my publisher said, it doesn't really matter what we call the book, because Leigh's name will sell the books. And I thought, yeah, that's it, I've arrived.
That's the thing. I think once you have because initially people have their name at the bottom and their title in big capital letters or particular fonts. And once your name goes at the top and the title is sort of almost, as you say, it doesn't matter what it is. It's the fact that it is your book.
Mine have sort of gone full circle, because it started out with my name very small, yes, and big titles, cut short, road closed, because it sounded a bit crimey. And then after a while, my name was really big at the top of the book because my name was selling the books. But then, with so many books out, my publisher thought, maybe people will see my name and think, oh yeah, we've read that one. So they've changed around again. So I liked it when my name was really big on the cover, but they've changed it back again now so that the title is bigger. I don't know. I mean, they do. They at one point, for quite a while, they were putting the number of the book on the spine, which I rather liked. The number.
Yes, I can see those.
But they've stopped doing that now because they felt it might put people off if they see this is book 23 in a series and they haven't read the others. Maybe they'll think, oh well, perhaps we shouldn't read this. So there's all sorts goes into all these decisions. Loads of things that I wouldn't even think of. So all I do really is write the books. I don't really know about anything else. I know how to write a book, but I don't really know anything else. So I leave it to those who know.
Yeah, people who know what they're, that side of it. So next up, we'll have, so you've just submitted your 5th copy. So are you working on a 6th? Have you got an idea for the 6th?
Not yet, no. I tend to wait until I need to write the book and then I think of something. And yeah, I'm not quite sure how many we're going to write in the Poppy series, because Poppy is, I mean, if you read the books, the fictional Poppy is based exactly on the real Poppy. I mean, she is a really clever dog, but in the books, she is a dog. She doesn't have any special powers. She's just a very cute, clever little dog.
Mm.
And I don't anthropomorphize her at all. So I think there may be a limit to the number of times that I can have Poppy barking at a cellar door and they open the door and there's somebody in there, or, you know, barking at, you know, outside a car and they find somebody in the car. So I'm not quite sure if I'll get to 23 in the Poppy mystery tales, but we'll see. But the 5th one is out next year. The 4th one is coming out in September. The 5th one is coming out next year. So I guess once we get past the 4th one, I'll ask my publisher, do you want any more? And he usually says, let's see how sales go. He's quite sort of cautious. And then sales go pretty well. So he says, yes, let's have some more. I'll see. But I'm not thinking about it yet in case there aren't any more. But I think there probably will be. I hope there will be. And the same with Geraldine Steel. I mean, I've the 22nd one has just come out. Or is it the 21st has just come out? One of them has just come out and another one has been edited. Yeah, no, I think it must be the, you know, I lose count. But one has just come out. There's another one which has been edited, which is coming out early next year, I think. And I'm writing the next one. So we're looking quite far ahead, probably to 2026 for another one. So I'll wait and see what happens. It's all driven by sales, really.
Yeah, sure.
So anybody watching this, rush out and buy my books.
Absolutely. And do you find writing standalones quite a sort of freeing process, because you don't have to remember anything from before then and you don't have to carry anything forward? And also you've written different genres.
Yes, I mean, it's a different kind of animal, because yes, you don't need to remember what you were writing about before, but at the same time you need to create everything from new. And sometimes these things just turn up. I mean, I didn't mention COVID in the Geraldine Steel series because while I was writing the books, I didn't even want to think about the pandemic. So Geraldine lives in a kind of parallel universe where COVID never happens, because to me, writing and fiction is an escape from reality. But I think the pandemic did really, have an effect on me, as indeed it did on all of us. It impacted everything, didn't it? And so I wrote a dystopian novel, and the premise there is that there's a virus which affects not just human life, but all life on Earth. So all vegetation, everything is destroyed. And when you think, how are people going to survive that? So that was my dystopian novel. And I wrote a historical novel, which actually took me a long time to write. I researched it for 3 years. It's so fascinating doing the research. It's set during the Renaissance in Venice, with the rise of the printing houses. But at the same time as we had the rise of the great printing houses, and I actually think printing changed life for humanity even more than the internet has done, because with the advent of printing, it was the first time that people were able to communicate without actually just being in the room with somebody else, being in front of them. And, with literacy becoming more widespread. But at that time, in the mid-16th century, they were burning books. And of course, printing had the potential for universal education. If everybody could read what other people and other cultures were thinking and believing, maybe we could have universal tolerance. But at the same time, printing was also a tool for suppression, for propaganda, for misinformation. So I just thought the juxtaposition of the rise of the great printing houses and the burning of books was just so poignant. And so that inspired my historical novel. But as I say, it took me a long time to research. So interesting. So that's how my historical and my dystopian novels came around. my psychological thrillers were just one-off, first person, about crime, but written from a different point of view. And I think, have I written anything else? Well, there's the Lucy Hall stories, but which are more international, really. First one was set in Seychelles, and we did have to go there for a couple of weeks. Hard job.
Yes.
We've got to do it, yeah. My husband was very excited about this trip to Seychelles, but what he didn't realise was that we were going to spend a lot of time at the local police station down on Avalon Bay. We spent a lot of time at the police headquarters, talking to the police chief in the capital, Victoria. But it was a wonderful trip. It was very exciting. And in fact, the Minister for Culture and Tourism from Seychelles flew over to London for the launch of that book. So that was rather nice. But it was slightly pressurized, because if I'd forgotten to look at anything, I couldn't pop back.
No.
So I had to get all my research done in those 2 weeks. And I think I had to send the manuscript off to the editor about 4 days before our 2-week holiday was up. So there I was, sitting on a beach in Seychelles, emailing my draft off to the editor in London. And then we had a few days just holiday. But I sort of learnt my lesson, because I had 2 more books to write in that series. I had a 3-book deal. And so I set the second one in Paris. So if I forgot something, which of course I did, we could pop back fairly easily. Yes, yeah. And the next one was in Rome. So yeah, I mean, again, live and learn, really.
Is there somewhere you haven't been to that you'd like to go for research purposes?
You know what? I'm not a very comfortable traveller. I like being at home. My husband loves traveling, and we have been to all sorts of places through my books. We've been to New Orleans, we've been to France, to Rome, to Greece, all sorts of places. But I don't really like traveling. I just like being at home, and I'd rather just travel to places in my imagination. I'm not very adventurous. I have my adventures on the page.
But the great thing of these days is you can just Google something. And I lived in Northampton, as you know, until fairly recently. And there was a Northampton in Massachusetts, and I ended up on their webcam and seeing what they were doing. You know, the shops on the high street and people going in and out of the shops.
Of course,
fascinating.
I mean, there are things that you can't research online. I mean, I agree, it's fantastic what you can research, but the reason I needed to go to Seychelles was that I just couldn't work out online and from pictures, is the sand on the beaches golden or white? What does it sound like in the cloud forest? I couldn't find anywhere online that told me what it sounded like, what the atmosphere was like. So I think to get the atmosphere and the feel of a place, you really do need to go there if your character is going to go there. But yes, I mean, you can research all sorts of things online. And of course, it was wonderful during lockdown, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. But you need the essence of it. And you know that you need to get it right. Because I know of authors who've set somewhere in real places, as I've done in the past, and somebody's written to them and said, "Oh no, that's a one-way street." You know, they've gone the wrong way down a one-way street.
I don't think things like that matter so much, because you can move things around a bit. You can change things. Yeah, we all do that, don't we? Just to suit the plot. But I think just to get the kind of atmosphere and feel of a place, and I would never try to, apart from my historical novel, which is slightly different, I wouldn't try to write a novel where my character had grown up in a place that I didn't know, because I think then you know the place in a different way, don't you? But for example, my detective Geraldine, she starts in Kent, where I lived for 4 years, so I did have some feel of it, and she moves to London, where I live now. And when she relocated to York, we used to go to York for a couple of weeks every year. And I was writing from the point of view of a character who hadn't grown up in that place, but went to live there. And so I felt able to do that. Yes, yeah.
It was brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's fantastic to see you. Yeah, I know. It's literally 40 minutes. And I
probably talk too much. I always say,
it's lovely.
My husband hates this joke, but it is true, actually. He always says he loves it when I'm writing, because then I'm not talking. Because once I start talking,
Yeah. No, I say I can talk for England, but we will hopefully come back and work our way through your series, through your 56 titles.
Anyway,
So
it's
that
been
will
lovely.
keep us going for a little while.
We haven't even talked about what you're writing at the moment and what you're working on. What are you
Oh,
doing?
well, it's actually my birthday tomorrow, so I thought weirdly I would interview myself. So so I'm not writing very much at the moment, but I have lots of different things on the go. Another Henry, Dog Detective, and bits and pieces. So,
yeah.
So I don't write enough.
Are you going to be are you going to behave yourself as an interviewee when you're interviewing?
Probably not. No, probably not. I make life awkward for myself, but we shall see. We shall see. But no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, and look forward to chatting with an audience next time, starting from your first book of your choice, and we'll chat about that. Thank you so much. Okay, lovely. Thank you, Leigh.
I like your hair. Your hair.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's a lot shorter.
I saw you. It was longer, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. No, I'm got to the age where I think I'm just.
I know. Me too.
It was just the trouble is I have very fine hair, and it just looked like a mop, and so we went for layers. Yeah, if Jamie Lee Curtis can do it, then that's. I did the thing that hairdressers probably hate, where I gave her a picture of Jamie Lee Curtis's hair, and I said I'd like that. And so she's got
a patch on you.
Oh, thank you. Bless you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Great chat. Bye.
Bye-bye.